the topic that we're discussing is going to be Afghan traditions, values, and customs. Afghanistan has come greatly into the spotlight since the Taliban takeover of the country, and I feel that there has been a lot of opinions and in articles that have been written and stated about what the government should be like and how the society should be structured and all of these things. And in that, I feel that somewhere we have misplaced the Afghan narrative, and we have misplaced and not given enough importance to where the Afghans see themselves or how they want the government or their country to go forward in the future. And I think that another thing that we forget is that Afghanistan's urban centers might have benefited also from foreign interventions, but the country's rural regions have mainly faced devastations and poverty and war. And in this context, many people also tend to forget that Afghanistan is predominantly rural and it is not a predominantly urban country. The West was unable to change the society meaningfully in the last 20 years according to the ways that they wanted to change it. And we need to view Afghanistan with a lens that is not filtered by Western or any other ideals and values, because it has its own unique heritage and traditions. So today we have a really interesting and a very diverse panel of speakers who all have their unique experiences, and they have their own unique linkage with Afghanistan. So to start off, we're going to be talking to Ambassador Ayaz Wazir. Ambassador Ayaz Wazir is a career diplomat who joined the Foreign Service of Pakistan in 1974. He has also, while serving at Ministry of Foreign Affairs as Director General of Afghanistan, he was selected as a member of the Prime Minister's mission for shuttle diplomacy between Taliban and the Northern Alliance to bring them to the negotiating table for peaceful solution. He also represented Pakistan in a Pak-Iran joint mission for Afghanistan and visited Mazar-e-Sharif and Kandahar along with the Iranian counterpart for meetings with leaders of Northern Alliance and the Taliban ambassador. Ambassador Wazir represented Pakistan in the OIC's Committee on Afghanistan at meetings with heads of states, governments of Iran, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and the UN Secretary General. He has a long and illustrious history, and he has a very strong linkage with the country. So I'm just going to hand the floor over to him and get his opinion and his views on this topic today. Sir, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Now, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the floor, and I would like to thank everyone for inviting me, including the president of the society here, our friend and colleague, to share my views with you on this important subject. But I thought one would be listening to the Afghans first to have the real feel of the Afghans as to how do they look at or consider it. An outsider commenting, though I don't consider myself an outsider, I'm as good an Afghan as anybody else in Afghanistan. We all Pashtuns are Afghans. It's a different issue that we are living in two different countries. But our traditions and our customs and history even is the same until 1947 that Pakistan came into being, or if one goes a little earlier, until 1893, when the Durand Line was drawn between Afghanistan and the British India at that time. Anyway, Afghanistan, as we know, has never been one ethnic country. It has quite a few ethnicities together. The biggest one, or the largest one, I believe, are Pathans. People say they start from, many people quote them differently, 40%, 50%, 60%, but nobody crosses 60, nobody comes down less than 40. So it's somewhere in between there. And then we have the second largest majority of ethnicities, Tajik, then are Uzbek, and then are Hazara, Turkoman, Aimak, Baloch, and the other small groups there. The total population, I think, today is somewhere around 40 million people. And religion is a common thread that binds all these people together. Islam is followed by almost all Afghans and it dominates much of their personal, political, economic, and legal life. The Afghans, as we all know, are very proud people, and they are even more prouder of their land, religion, and ancestry. They value their independence beyond life. I'll mention a couple of the factors of, how should I say, customs or traditions or the norms of the Afghans, in which I think Pashtunwali is on top, where they offer protection to people. If I would simply describe it like this, that if you are having a problem with your neighbors, that is what happens in my area even today. And the neighbor is strong, not talking to you or doing justice with you through negotiations, then you can seek protection of another stronger person, and he then compels that your opponent to sit and talk to him. So that is kind of seeking protection by a weaker person or weaker tribe through a Pashtunwali of a bigger person or bigger tribe to bring justice within the society. So Pashtunwali plays a very important role. And one of the ingredient of that is hospitality, which again is extremely important. The Afghan people are extremely hospitable. Hospitality and honor are two vital characteristics, or rather defining characteristics for all Afghans. They will do their utmost, even give and take life, to uphold their honor and extend hospitality towards their guests. One has, however, to be very careful when dealing with the Afghans, not to do anything that might bring shame or criticize him in public. One should also avoid questioning him in such a way that he feels embarrassed. So these were something which I thought I should mention before going into the political side. And one last element I would like to bring to the notice of all the participants, that when you are meeting an Afghan, make sure that you respect their traditional way of meeting them. Let's not go by the urban life. Afghanistan mostly is a rural population like we have here in Pakistan. And the tradition there is that I've experienced with Afghan, even if living in urban centers, is that when you shake hand with him, one is you have to hold his hand with both of your hands and then say hi, hello over there. But when you take seat and he takes seat, then you address him and ask him about his well-being, which is communicated mutually. You ask him, he asks you. Like, for example, I asked Chaudhry, I said, hello, Chaudhry, how are you? How are your children? How is your family? And how is your village? The same he'll ask me. So that is a kind of making that person at ease to settle down and then face or address whatever their situation is. So that is some of the important factors which I wanted to bring to. But the Afghan society, though efforts were made in the past also to modernize, but that didn't succeed. If we recall, King Amanullah Khan, who ruled Afghanistan from 1919 till 1929, introduced steps to modernize the society, modernize the government system, which his father Habibullah wanted, and even his father Abdurrahman also wanted, but they were careful with touching this subject because they were very well aware, or they were, if I use the word with due apology from the Afghan, they were a bit scared of the reaction of the population if they go deep into it. But Amanullah Khan took the chance and started introducing, and that brought the strong reaction from the religious and tribal leaders, particularly of his reforms in the education, where where women were kind of expected or supposed not to wear hijab, and other measures were taken for a quick modernization. But anyway, the reaction was very strong, and finally he was forced even to quit the place, and a Tajik, I'm missing his good name, his real name, but he is known by Bacha Saka, who took over power from him and ruled the country for some time. So Amanullah Khan, in my assessment, lost the throne of Afghanistan simply by not going by the book as written by the Afghan custom, traditions, and culture. Changes in every custom and tradition and culture can be brought, but through development. Changes cannot be imposed from the sky or from outside, and Afghans are known to be very seriously concerned about their independence, about foreign interference, or refusing anything imposed on them from outside. Then we'll come down to, well, the Afghanistan, if we see it right from day one, 1747, if we start from there, till King Zahir Shah was removed, the system went on monarchy mostly. Monarchy system was derailed in 1973, if I'm not mistaken, by Sardar Dawood, removing his cousin King Zahir Shah from the throne and taking over as a president himself. The rest is a history, you know. The communist system followed. Taraki came, Nur Muhammad Taraki, then Hafizul Amin, and then Babra Karmal. Quick steps were taken by some of them, without naming, to introduce political changes in Afghanistan. But that was resisted, and unfortunately, they met a very tragic end. Then came the Soviet Union, walked into Afghanistan. The Soviet invasion, or let me quickly mention the American together. When the American came later, they both wanted to impose their way of system of governance in Afghanistan, which was on the quiet and open also, resisted by the Afghans. And the example is before us. And religion was mostly used because 98% people of Afghanistan, I believe, are strong Sunnis, and they would not accept things easily which are not in line with the religion. If anything coming against it, or if strongly propagated, I'm not going to detail that it's against the religion, then the reaction is very strong. So one has to be extra careful with the culture, traditions of Afghans, and introduce changes in line through development of the country. If we see the American way, or the American and Western allies way of operating in Afghanistan after 9/11, what we see is immediate introduction of democracy. Democracy was not there in Afghanistan, ever. This was the first time that democracy was imposed, though in normal life of the Afghans, and particularly I can say about Pashtun, I am myself a Pashtun, Our way of life is more democratic than democracy in the best of the countries on earth. But that is a different subject. Anyway, Afghanistan has no experience with democracy, and democracy was imposed. It worked in some areas, in the urban centers, it worked a bit, but you see in rural, there was no sign of it. And the reaction started immediately because of the religion that was used, because of the reservation that people had. So every aspect was used against the Soviet, and they were pushed out of the country. Then against the American with the NATO allies, strongest might on earth, which went against, I would say, to a greater extent against the Afghan traditions and custom and culture. So they also met the same fate and they had to leave. Now, the Taliban has come on the stage. Let's look at them. How would they operate? How would their future be if we keep this thing in mind? Afghans are, Taliban are Afghans. They are not outsiders. Whether we like it or not, they are as good Afghans as any other Afghans in Afghanistan. They like each other, not like each other, but they are over there. But their strong support is from the rural area because they come from that area. In rural area, my assessment is, maybe I'm wrong, my Afghan friends would correct me and I'll happily accept it, that in rural area, majority would like to have an Islamic system, to have the following of Islam everywhere. Like here in Pakistan, if you go to the public, ask them, everybody would like to Islamic laws to be implemented. But when it goes to parliament, we have a democracy, then there things change. But the Taliban do not believe in the democratic assembly of the nation. They have their own shura system, which one knows in the early stages of Islam, shura system was working. So that is much closer in my assessment to the rural life than the American way of life or the American followed government. Ashraf Ghani, I met him, I respect him a lot. He hosted me over there. Same Hamid Karzai was very kind. I've enjoyed his hospitality. But their system of governance was obviously democracy. I'm not saying democracy is bad, but comparing democracy with the system that the Afghans were used to was not easily acceptable. Like if I can give you the example, I am from the tribal area of Pakistan on the border with Afghanistan. We had the frontier crimes regulation in our area for more than 120 years, I think. So we were used to that. And when the government wanted to change, bring the tribal area into the settled area, make it a part of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the people had strong reservation. The system of governance in Pakistan to majority of the people today, even in FATA, is not acceptable. But that is another story, another issue now that is merged, that has become a part of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but it will take time. I tell you, FATA to become as good a settled area as Peshawar or Mardan or Islamabad is, I think it will take at least 50 years, if not more. So the same, I think, applies to Afghanistan, that democracy, no doubt it's a good system. It's all over in other countries also. But it doesn't today go very close with the life of the rural people of Pakistan, like it doesn't go exactly with the rural life in Pakistan also. But for Afghanistan to have strong democratic system, they have to wait for a while. I think the best way would be, now the Taliban have come into the stage, whether we like it or not, as I said earlier, they are calling the shots. Now what do? We have two options. Either we refuse cooperating with them, make them stand against the wall and react violently like they had done in early 90s, or we cooperate to kind of influence over a period of time so that we make inroads in their system and bring in changes of governance on which many people have reservation, and the Taliban will also find it a bit easy if we coordinate that they bring in changes so that it's acceptable to the people of Afghanistan. I think with that, I'll stop and wait for the Afghan brothers and sisters to correct me and to listen from them. And then I'll react in, or if you want me to talk more in the question answer session, if you want to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Ayaz Wazir. Thank you for sharing your opinions and your insights from your vast experience. I'm sure that our next panelist would have something to add to that and take the discussion further. The next panelist is Ms. Hassina Syed, who is an Afghan entrepreneur. She is also a political activist. She is a great friend to IRS, and she has been a resident Afghan voice since the takeover, and she has been attending a lot of our webinars and giving us her input. So we're very thankful to her. So Ms. Syed, if you want to add, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Again, I really like to, this is a very great subject and very important subject also, especially most of the little points which we have to a little bit open up, because there is some misunderstanding regarding Afghanistan between Pashtuns and Tajiks, which I like to clarify a little bit openly, because I don't know why it's becoming like more trend, or it's become like people's mind that Pashtuns are larger than Tajiks. Although we tried, even from I was involved in this subject long time ago, and I tried very hard to open up the subject by the national ID card. So people should give them ID card in a way that they can see that where they are from. So that was a very great way to see that how many Pashtuns we have and how many Tajiks we have. So unfortunately, it didn't work out very well because of some other connections, so involvement. So that's why I think that's till now nobody doesn't know exact how much are the Pashtun and how much are the majority and minority and are Tajiks. So that's why people in Afghanistan, whatever is fighting right now going on in Afghanistan is only because of that, because people think that, okay, Pashtun should be the head of the government, and some people think that no, the Tajik should be, and Tajik Pashtun think, why should be not Pashtun be the head of Afghanistan? So this is a little bit confusing right now. So we can't say actually that how is the majorities are Pashtun or majorities of Tajik. So that's one point I like to clarify that. And also in the same way, I want to connect the dots regarding the Durin line. Durin line, whenever you ask to any Tajik speaking person, they always would like to have like whatever Pakistan would like to know to have, that Durin line should be acceptable or not acceptable. So the Pashtun, majority of Pashtun, when I talk personally, they want to not to have Durin line. But when you talk with any Tajik, they said no, we have to have Durin line. So that's why you can see that how many different mentalities between Pashtuns and Tajiks. And regarding just the ambassador just mentioned that Taliban has changed, and Taliban, yes, has my husband Peter, he is there in Afghanistan, and he's talking with them face to face, and I'm really happy to say that they are actually changed. And as they have iPhones, they are playing like roadblocks, they are playing so many things. And I'm having those stories. I was so shocked to hear that how many programs they are installing in their iPhones. So you can see this is the new generation of Afghanistan, the new generation of Taliban are coming in with a different mentality, because as Afghanistan is a tribal society, and all these cultural issues, before it was very important, but now it's not very important, because we just need more than tribal argument. We have to have the peace and stability. Sorry, just the airplane just went out, so it was so much noise. That's why I thought I'm in Afghanistan. So so that's why this is my main argument, that as an Afghan, we have to think about more the development and peace and stability, more than that where we are from and which language we speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hassina Syed, and thank you for bringing that Afghan perspective and clarifying the points that you felt might not have been clarified before. We're going to move on to our last panelist now, Mr. Bukhtiar Shoresh. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm not sure. He has served as a military officer. He has been engaged with politics, international private sector, and British media news agencies in Afghanistan, such as the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. And now I will be handing the floor over to him so that he can share his opinions and insights with us on this topic.
Thanks, Ms. Zarina, for giving me this opportunity and for a chance to raise my perspectives, and with the respect of your respectful panel attendants, Ms. Hassina and Mr. Wazir. Before that I release or state my statements, I want to make sure that I'm not going to be a sort of disagree completely with Mr. Wazir, but I have to make some points very clear here. We have to, whenever we are stating regards traditions, values, and customs in Afghanistan, we have to be very careful that we should take all the factors should be covered up, and it should be present a comprehensive picture. It shouldn't be like a sort of supremacy language, like Mr. Waziri has stated in a couple of his sentences that Pashtunwali, it's an important shura or collective jirga in Afghanistan, that it's very popular. I really disagree with that. Pashtunwali or shura or jirga is maybe dominated in the south of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is multicultural and multi-language minority tribals area and country. So those factors and those aspects all bring together, and it's present the name of Afghan people. Whenever you are bringing some supremacy or you are bringing some things that you are making some level as high and some level as down, it means that we are using people as a tools here, particularly Afghan people as a tools here. Like as Mr. Wazir has stated in a couple of statements that Afghanistan has never ever practiced democracy. That's wrong. Afghanistan tried many times. Even we had democracy in a communist regime, but just there was limited freedom of speech. Women could go to school, women could participate in the government, women could be a minister in the cabinet, as well as in the last couple of decades. Let's be honest. We shouldn't forget that even we have had a crap government, a crap politician, that they touch base our destiny of our people in a very chaotic situation. But although we had a democracy, free of speech, And we had change. There is a change of generation in Afghanistan in the last 2 decades. We had achievement, that it's a value. This is the value of humanity. This is the value of human rights. This is the value of democracy that we practiced in the last 2 decades in Afghanistan. How we could blind ourselves and cross away from these values. And we say that Afghanistan has never been practiced democracy. No, that's wrong. As politicians, it's another factors aspect that has eliminated all the other good factors. But let's be honest with the Afghan people on the worldwide. Okay, let's come to the main point, that what is the custom, values, and tradition of Afghanistan. So Afghanistan values are very, very clear. It's based on 4 general factors. It's human dignity. It's very, very important in Afghanistan, human dignity. I mean, whenever you're facing with Afghan people, you have to be very careful. That Afghan people has got very sensitive sense of understanding and sensitive sense of, acknowledgement that it should be very compassionate. The next factor is its hospitality. I can't see any necessity to describe more or make more definition about the hospitality of Afghanistan. Hundreds or thousands of books being written all worldwide, and people can reach out there. And loyalty is as well. I'm not saying that loyalty is on the side of politician side of Afghanistan. It's absolutely irrelevant. I'm talking just about common people of Afghanistan, how much loyal and honest they are. And the last one is its modesty, and people are very, very modest. And on top of all those factors, the major generals that I've been stated already, people will try it for another factors, values as well. As I stated before, human rights, free speech, democracy, some other factors that it's worldwide being recognized. Afghan culture and traditions are, it's based on the geographical landscape of Afghanistan that has been locked down. And it's been surrounded by 6 country neighborhoods. And I'm really, really sorry to for some of our country neighbors that they are being, well, let me open a bracket here. I'm not, pinpointed for the common people. Here I'm pinpoint for some politics. That some of the region country that it's connected to Afghanistan, they haven't been loyal or honest. Our culture, our traditions, our politics, our economics, all been impacted in the last 2 decades, wrongly, false, by those countries. I'm not naming it. It's very, very like a sunshine, it's clear. So what I'm trying to say here, to put a point of supremacy within the Afghan people, that it's Tajik majority, Pashtun majority, Uzbek majority, Hazara majority, it's not a good concept. Has never been practiced as a good concept. So people are in this contemporary, in this 21st century, they are thinking how they should develop. Develop doesn't come from anywhere else. It should be change the behavior. It should be change the knowledge, economic, and environment to develop the country. So that's why we have to. I know that all our traditions and customs are based and impacted by the Islam, and we are the followers of the Islamic principles. And our tradition, we have got our own traditions that it's very unique, based on the social. But all those factors, all those traditions, all those unique factors has always been impacted by outsiders' traditions, outsiders' democracy, as Wazir has stated. We have never been democracy at the level that United States has practiced in the last 20 centuries. We are not ready for that. But step by step, I am saying that we are the people that have the mentality to understand and practice the democracy in a proper way. I'm sure people of Afghanistan in the last 2 decades has reached at that level of knowledge to understand and to segregate what is the good and what is wrong. And they understand now that, particularly the new generation of Afghanistan, which is in the last 2 decades, they are really, really mind-blowing generation. They are not some people that they lived in the 1990s. They are not the generation that they lived like four decades ago. No, they are following some respects. They are following some factors that it's essential to make development factors for their future. But they have got some other minds that it's much based on this current worldwide perspectives. I hope that Mr. Wazir is not get upset from my statement that I pinpointed a little bit on those factors that he stated already. But in the last sentences, I am saying that our traditions, values, and customs are always being respected by our people. And this is something that we are live with. Tradition, custom, values, it's a pattern of national any countries. So we have to be very, very respectful for those factors that it's making our stories in a high level. Thank you so much for attention.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to actually, so before we move on to the questions, which I'm sure I've gotten some direct messages, and then I'm just waiting for other people to ask their questions once they've processed all the information that was shared. I think Mr. Ambassador Ayaz Wazir would like to give his comments. So, sir, you have the floor. Sir, you're muted again.
Oh, my apology, I forgot it. I said I'm delighted to hear the two Afghans contradicting me on a couple of points. I have not really taken it bad. I stand educated. My only request to them is that let's not deny the fact. By making a statement, we cannot change either the population or the figure or the history of the country. What I said, if you can prove, I promise I'll never talk on Afghanistan ever in my life. Pashtuns are in majority, you accept it or not, that everybody says. Hassina is the first time I heard who says that Pashtuns are not in majority. I have heard this from Ahmad Shah Massoud. If you believe me or not, he is dead. I have met him a couple of times. He admitted.
No,
Hold on.
Sorry, still we don't know.
Please have a heart. Have a heart. I've listened to you. I've listened to you very patiently. Very patiently, I've listened to you.
We
Now,
we don't have the proof also that majority Pashtuns are majority.
would the administrator please intervene that we listen to each other? Cross-talking should be closed.
Ms. Syed,
please.
Sorry,
Please,
actually, yes, we just let Ambassador Wazir complete his statement, and then you can rebut or give your comments.
Exactly. I'm just quoting figure that I've met, I have talked, in addition to my reading or my personal experience. Ask Abdullah, he is still alive. And ask other leaders, if they say Pashtuns are not in majority in Afghanistan compared to the other ethnic groups. I'm not saying that they are, if you put all the other ethnicities together, and then still Pashtuns are more than them. No, I said amongst the ethnicities, Pashtuns is or the biggest group. Secondly, my brother Bukhtiar Shoresh, I wish he had made his own comment on the subject that we are talking. He was commenting on my comments, which is very easy to contradict somebody when he has already spoken. I have my own right to my views. You have your own right to your views. You present your views. I had presented my views. But you failed to present your views. You try to contradict me and try to prove that democracy was there in Afghanistan for centuries. Come on, one knows when was democracy in Afghanistan other than when Sardar Dawood removed his brother, then started moving a bit, but what fate Sardar Dawood was met with. And then what happened to the communists who tried, Taraki, Hafizullah Amin, what happened to them? I'm not saying effort were not made. My argument was that if you take action abruptly, try to introduce modernization, try to introduce a system, it gets violent reaction. And there I think I stand proved that it has happened. The rest I'm not disputing with you people. We have a little interaction with Afghan. We had at one time here 5 million Afghans with us, including every ethnicity. We still have 30 lakhs of Afghans here with us. We are interacting with them. I'm not saying that the other ethnicities, they do not have their traditions or customs. But if, my brother, you are denying jirga, then I'm afraid you are denying your own garments. Every garment almost, when faced with some problem, had gone into jirga. It's a history of Afghanistan. Big disputes were resolved by the jirga in Afghanistan. And the jirga doesn't comprise of Pashtuns only. In jirga, every ethnicity, every area is represented. So how can you say that there is no jirga or there is, no Pashtunwali? Pashtunwali, if you take away from Pashtun, then you better throw all the Pashtun out of Afghanistan. Pashtunwali is the basis of Pathans. Which area you come from? If you tell us about yourself, which area or which ethnicity you come from, then we would know.
From Zarina to give me a few minutes about this, please.
Now, if you permit me, please, I'm not fighting with you.
Go on, please, Waziri. Go on, please.
Look, for heaven's sake, we are mature people. As I said, you have your own views, you have every right to have whatever views you like. You cannot force your views on me. I cannot force my views on you. What I said, I stand to it. You can say whatever, but please, let's not go into contradicting each other. Otherwise, we will finish at a very sour note. With that, I close. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Wazir. Ms. Hassina, you had some statements to make, so you have the floor now.
I just would like to know, has Mr. Wazir just rightly say everybody has their own choice of mentality and the way they think. So it's a very right way to do it, and I appreciate that. I'm not also arguing. I'm sorry about when I just jump into your conversation. I just wanted to know, because it was a very interesting, this is a very interesting subject. That's why in the beginning I said this is very interesting subject, because one of the very important issue of Afghanistan is the same, not other ethnic groups, it's only stick with Pashtuns and Tajiks. And because I was involved during Karzai's time with one of huge big organization who was working, we wanted to work to open up to that, because Even during Kyrgyzstan, there was a lot of argument between Pashtun and Tajiks, how much majority or minority. And at the end, that it was so I had this contract to see how much are the majorities and how much is the minority of Pashtuns and Tajiks. So that project has froze up because there was nobody didn't know actually how much was the Pashtuns and how much was the Tajik. I'm sure Dr. Abdullah might say that because he's Pashtun. Karzai should say because he's Pashtun. Have you ever talked with any Tajik person? Because everybody tried to bring their own ethnicity higher. That's why we have to be neutral. Till now, it's not fixed 100% to say that Tajiks are the majority or Pashtuns are the majority. It hasn't been done properly. That's why national ID card, electronic ID card was very important for everybody in Afghanistan, that we should know how much is the Tajik, how much are the Tajiks and how many are the Pashtuns. So that's why I was forcing into this project, which unfortunately didn't go on. So by today, if it would be clear, then we would have some kind of clear answer for that. So that's why it's majority, but it's not, it's vague. We can't say that at all, that who is the majority. We all Afghans has been, I have so much in Daram, Adam Khail, in Waziristan, and everywhere I have a huge, big, and I know Pashto very, very well. I think more than my language, I know Pashto very well. So I'm not against Pashtuns. I'm just saying that this argument is not clear right now, that who is majority and who has minority. I have a lot of friends in Pakistan. I have a lot of friends in Waziristan. Till now, I've been in communicate. Like we are getting on along with Taliban or my Pashtun brothers. So that's why I'm not sorry. I don't want you to think that okay, she might be Tajik. That's why she's speaking bad about or saying about Pashtuns. I think I have more Pashtun. Even my family has more Pashtun friends than anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Syed. Before I move back to our panelist, Mr. Bukhtiar, before I give the floor back to you, I think the President IRS, he's joined, he's on the webinar. He wanted to make a few comments. Ambassador Nadeem Riaz, I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Zonera, and welcome to everyone. Hassina, it's a pleasure seeing you again. And I have listened very intently to all what has been said. And, you know, it's a very interesting conversation which is developing. And that is precisely the reason when I spoke to you a couple of days ago, I really wanted to have an event on the Afghan traditions and value system, because, you know, there are so many misperceptions. There are so many ideas which are floating around. So, I mean, it's the discussion which is taking place, it's absolutely clear that, you know, we need to find out as to what is the real truth. Now, if you look at what has been happening in Afghanistan for the last 20 years, or even if you go back to the time of the Soviets, like it was always an external view, which was, or an external policy solution, which was imposed on the people of Afghanistan. And maybe, like, you know, when we do a honest catharsis, we find out that, you know, there can be no imported solutions to solve domestic problems, because people look at Afghanistan from the lenses of their own eyes rather than from the lenses of the Afghan people. So my observation is this, that Afghanistan is a country on which we need to focus more. We need to look at what are the intricacies within the country. And like, you know, people talk about even now about the Taliban and this particular thing, that, you know, what concessions they are going to give to women. And I think it's always through a Western perception that people look at, because that Western perception will always be different from the Afghan perception of what the position of women is in society. So I've got a great interest in this particular thing. And Hassina, could you be kind enough to just tell us that what are the perceptions of women in the Afghan society, and what position do the people feel? I'm talking about the people, not the perception. Do the people feel that they should be doing in the rebuilding of Afghanistan? Over to you, and thank you very much.
Think has and thank you so much. I think has being an Afghan has Bukhtiar said, and Mr. Wazir Saab said rightly, that we have culture and tradition, and the most important, more than the culture, is Islam. We are all Muslim. We have to do whatever we are doing right now, and what we would like to do is according to Islam. So it's unfortunately in some of the rural area in Afghanistan, culture is above than religion. So that's the very unfortunate, that in Islam we have a lot of positive, a lot of values they have given. I think more values than even in foreign countries has given to the woman in Islam. So we really like to go as being an Afghan woman. And when I talk with other Afghan fellows, women fellows, they would like to go according to Islam. According to Islam is not wearing burqa. Burqa is not in Islam at all. That's why when we go for Hajj, we don't wear burqas. We don't wear those something that to cover our face. Even when you go for Hajj, if somebody can go for Hajj and they can only show their face and their hands, that much hands, so then how we can say that burqa has to be for women in Afghanistan? So that's the very main topic that we have to discuss, that in Islam doesn't say that you have to wear whole abaya, or abaya is very important, is very good for the woman in Islam, but it doesn't say that you have to cover whole your face. So I like to say before I finish my sentence of that, I can see right now in Afghanistan, in Kabul, especially in Kabul area, that even Taliban are not arguing about who is wearing what. That's the very positive thing which encouraged me. And you can see on TV, in the media, or you can see yourself, as my husband is telling me, he's shocked that even a small little trouser with the long shirt is fine for them. Everybody is not there. Like till now, you haven't seen nobody has been beaten or nobody hasn't been jailed because of not having a bear in Afghanistan, or not having wearing burqas in Afghanistan. That's a positive thing about the Taliban, which we are happening. And I was, even though I was saying previously that the Taliban has changed, especially they have new generation. So we have to work with them. We shouldn't let them alone, but it takes slowly, step by step. We shouldn't just suddenly give them all, we shouldn't ask them all the rights at once. Otherwise, they will scare off.
Thank you, Ms. Syed. Sir, President Ayaz, do you have any follow-up to that?
Yes, Zanera, and thank you, Hassina, for educating us. I do completely agree with when you said that it is Islam which is followed. But you made a very interesting thing about the observations which were sent to you by your husband. But this is precisely what I want to say, that the key messages are not coming out of Afghanistan. You see, because the general concept in the West is that women don't have their rights and burqa and all that sort of stuff. So I think it is absolutely imperative that the true picture which is within Afghanistan, that must be communicated to the world, because unless and until that is done, I think there will always be aberrations and there will always be misunderstandings among the people trying to find out exactly what is Afghanistan. And to me personally, it is a country which has a great future, but the world has to understand the issues and the problems and the pace at which the developments are to take place. These are my observations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now we have a question from a research analyst at Institute of Regional Studies, Mr. Imran Sardar, and he would like to ask his question personally.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Very interesting discussions going on, and discussions are important to understand the dynamics of Afghan culture and traditions. So there is a difference, as everyone knows, that human rights definition of human rights in the West and in the Afghanistan is totally different. In my opinion, Afghanistan itself has failed to some extent to demonstrate their culture and inculcate their values to the West. So in this turning time, the Afghan Taliban are there and human rights issues is there. Don't you think that Afghan Taliban needs to initiate a concerted effort to demonstrate their own definition of human rights? Please.
Mr. Bukhtiar, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, sir, please. Thanks, Ms. Zarina, giving me the floor back again. Just before to first, I want to answer the question of our brother. I mean, if we are expecting the group of fighters that they have been rich in the power after 2 decades from fighting, from violence of human rights, and they should be standard and to give a picture for human concept to the world connected. I mean, it's very, very earlier, and I'm not seeing any sense of very happiness on this one. I mean, Taliban not on the level of a stage of knowledge that they can present a definition from human rights. They don't believe for human rights. I mean, they are saying that they don't believe for human rights, democracy, or any development census which is practicing it worldwide. So this is the easy answer. The people who were practicing in the last 2 decades, killing, beheading, and terrorist activities, violence, depletion, elimination, everything. How could you expect it that they can present the worldwide definition to connect it Afghanistan with the human rights to the worldwide? No, it's not. I mean, it's not impossible, but it takes more time. Let me to get back with our friends, Wazir said. I mean, I totally respect your perspective. I know that you've been experienced in Afghanistan, and you may name it from Mr. Ahmad Shah Massoud, national hero of Afghanistan, as well as Mr. Karzai, as well as Mr. Abdullah. And it's a very simple question. Is there any standard statistic from Afghanistan population has been released yet? No. Has there any worldwide recognition statistics being released from Afghanistan or worldwide that it should be dedicated with tribes in the majority? No. Recently, Mr. Putin, Russian president, stated that 46% population of Afghanistan is Tajik. Should we believe for that? No. These are the perceptions that create people's mindset misperception. This is some concept that people get arguing in Afghanistan and makes the platforms to go in the war battlefield. What I am saying, you have got deserved with your own comments, Mr. Wazir Saib. What I am saying, these words are creating mindset to the people of Afghanistan to bring more diversity, to bring more wrong misperceptions. What I am saying, as you are saying that Jirga and Shura is a very big part of in Afghanistan, I'm saying Shura. Why I'm just disagree with the name of Jirga. In the north of Afghanistan, we have got a Shura. We call it Shura, but I'm not allowing somebody to impose their language on me. How could you expect it that you're from majority, or I'm not seeing any majority population in Afghanistan. I do believe for that all the minority Afghanistan people have got the right to say. If you bring some supremacy separation here, you are making the platforms that people go in the wrong perception. I do respect again for your comment, Wazir Sahib. You have been experienced in Afghanistan. If Abdullah Ghani or Karzai said that Pashtun is the majority, who they are? Are they the base of statistics? No. They are the false and failed leaders that they face at Afghanistan with this concept. How could you believe for these leaders that they haven't been loyal with their countries? Come on, be honest.
Sorry, I apologize that I have to interject here, but if we could move past this discussion and just accept.
It's a good argument. I just really educated more from Mr. Waziri that he is more educated and more experienced. What I am saying, this supremacy factors levelized in Afghanistan bring some more combat perception on the people of Afghanistan. Now the Taliban take over majority the Taliban forces people are connected with the Pashtun people, but they left with the other minority groups in Afghanistan. What I am saying, it's a very important sense, Zarina John. In recent statements from Taliban that they announced that officially 2 languages as official in Afghanistan should be dominated. But they explained it that Pashto language is national language. This is the factor. This is the factor that people are watching themselves irrelevant from the mirror of the government of Afghanistan. This is the injecting sense of other factors that people are taking the concept that we are a stranger in Afghanistan. Why we are making some supremacy in the government structure here? That it's impacted the perception of people wrong. What I am saying, again, Mr. Wazir, I respect you. I totally respect your comment, but I'm saying don't believe for the leader of Afghanistan, particularly for the politics leader, that they are saying Pashtun is the majority. This is not the right statistic.
Thank you, Mr. Bukhtiar.
Sorry, I just want to add one sentence with the Bukhtiar. Please don't listen to the Mr. Hassan Wazir just left. Please do not listen to the those president who has left Afghanistan into chaos and who brought Afghanistan into this situation, which everybody is now, they lost their way. They don't know what to do. So they are the losers.
If I may interject, please, we do have questions which are not about this. So if the panelists are willing to move on, Ambassador Wazir, would you want to give your statement, and then we can move on to our, I think we only have 1 or 2 questions left that we need to cover.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I don't want to enter into an argument with my co-panelists, but let's be honest with ourselves and be generous to accept realities. If I am making an argument with a person who terms Abdullah a Pathan, I stop here, I don't make any argument. If Abdullah is a Pashtun, then you both are absolutely right. I'm totally wrong. I'll come down to the question that the gentleman posed, that the Taliban should present, or how can the Afghan narrative or the Afghan culture or whatever be presented to the West. Look, the West has its own objective. Every country has its own interest in another country. They have interest in Afghanistan. They are not concerned whether we or Afghans are dying of hunger or not. They came here to correct or to, let's say, put the Taliban right, correct them, modify them. But they are forgetting to do the same thing in their own country. I'm sure you know, Amish is a tribe in America, which today is living a Stone Age life. They are not using telephone, they are not using televisions, they are not traveling in planes, they are not traveling in automobile, in rail, anything. They are using the same old way of life. America is not concerned about that and is concerned about Afghanistan. They are not concerned about the human right violation, what they did in Guantanamo jail or in Abu Ghraib or in Bagram. And now they are worried that the Afghans are not respecting. I'm not going for Taliban or Ashraf Ghani or Hamid Karzai. I'll never forget Hamid Karzai, being a president, had to cry to express his concern about the serious human violation by the American and Western forces in Afghanistan.
Comedian always
Please,
cry,
hold on,
Mr.
hold
Masih.
your. I'm walking
Comedian
out.
always cry.
Okay,
Don't
bye.
believe that.
If we could please let panelists finish before we give our statements. Everyone has the right for a rebuttal.
If this is the attitude, then I better take off. If we are listening to each other, talk to each other like well-educated, good gentlemen, then I accept. But if he is representing, trying to impose, stopping me, then I take your lead. Goodbye.
Sir, I apologize. I do feel that everyone should have their opportunity to share their opinion, and please, I feel like we need to just move on. And so we do have a question that was asked a few times, and so I'm just going to summarize that. It's about the conflict and contradictions among the different ethnic groups, and what are the elements which can unify them as a single nation. And furthermore, from this, an offshoot of this question is that, do the Taliban actually have the capacity to amalgamate or unite the various ethnicities in Afghanistan and get that support from the population? So if any of you would like to answer that.
Let me to jump on this question, Ms. Zarina. I'm really, really sorry about Mr. Wazir that he's left the panel, because as I stated already, I mean, we shouldn't believe or get our trust to be full on politicians, particularly on the. He was the source of that. He was reorganized the Taliban back them in Afghanistan, and he's been, I mean, the source of financial sources that he's been millions dollars being spent to establish and organize training center for Taliban when he was a president. I don't believe for that. That's why I got argue with Mr. Wazir that he left the panel. I mean, comedians are crying. Should we believe that they are crying? They are not crying. They are mocking the people. They are presenting something else, but they are targeting something else. I mean, whatever I am saying, as you stated, just I don't want to forget your question that does the Taliban has capacity to present a unity government in Afghanistan? If they try, why not? If they try, if our neighbors or the region countries are put hands together and make a common perception and present a common perception to Afghan government structure, and they receive worldwide support politics. Why not? But we should be very careful. Taliban are always dependent to other countries, to other intel sources. They are not independent. They haven't got sense of independency on their mindset. Maybe the common Taliban, which they are fighting on the mountains, desert, or somewhere else, they are really unique Taliban that they are from Afghanistan. But their leaders, commanders, and all has been always connected to the region countries. I'm not naming that, but it's absolutely clear. Everybody knows that. But come to this question and to make a comprehensive answer for that. Taliban has got the vast opportunity now. The ball is on their ground. They have to use it. And they have to use it in an efficiency and effectiveness pathway. Has the Mr. Karzai and Ghani presidency has never tried that. They wasted the time. They wasted the people's opportunity in the last 2 decades, but they have got in front opportunities. If they want to go an exclusive government and it's been recognized by everybody and be presented to the people of Afghanistan, that would be a good concept. And all the people in Afghanistan keep expecting that. And they have got this opportunity absolutely in their hands. As long as they have got the perception of independency. If they are dependent to some other external sources, you shouldn't keep expecting that Taliban can be a factor of people unity in Afghanistan. And I'm afraid to say that because this people has been out of education for the last 2 decades, their level of knowledge is not matching with the worldwide perceptions. Majority of them is that they have got a key players position in Afghanistan. Even they don't know how they rule it, this principles. And they are really, really in the middle, feeling in the middle of nowhere, what they should do with the government structure. This is not something that you are ambushing some streets and killing some army soldiers and come back to your cave. No, this is government structure. You have to connect it directly with the people that who are needful. And you have to answer their needful. You know, in the last 3 months, the teacher has received only 3,000 of salary. Even a caution of flowers, it's 2,500 Fs. These are the people that they are raising their voice. And if this situation is maintained, Ms. Zarina, I'm really, really sure, and you will be expected in in the next couple of months, a vast changes will appear in Afghanistan. Even a national revolution is going to take place. And they have got some factors as well. The factor is economic, the factor is lack of the recognition of politicians, lack of the people is that they are still in the mountain fighting against the Taliban. I mean, there is still ISIS case in that region. They are engaging, fighting with Taliban, Jalalabad, Kabul, and Herat. Yesterday, Daesh, ISK, has got penetrated in the 400-bed hospital, which is it's 400 meters out of the presidential palace. It's neighbor embassy of United States in Kabul. So still you have got those factors that making Taliban engage to other concepts. But here, if the Taliban using their opportunity, and if they are coming in this proportions that get all the people's experience, knowledge, and come with the other politics factors and parties together and get a conclusion that we are making Afghanistan to be developed in the future, this is a good sense, and they have got this. And this is some things that everybody is keep expecting to have this achievement very soon. But I'm afraid to say that that this is not something that we should expect it very soon from all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bukhtiar. Ms. Hassina, would you also like to give your comments on the same question?
I would like to add a little bit more in a different way, because that Taliban right now, this is reality right now in Afghanistan, and we have to accept this reality. And we need, especially the foreign donors has to work with them. So in a way that the situation shouldn't get worse. So by working with them, they have to sit down to make their own whatever is they need back and forward. So it's very, very important right now, as Bukhtiar said, that is the critical moment even for Taliban, and Taliban has to show themselves that they have changed, and changing means they have to show it in action, not only wording. So that's why it's very important for them to work. I'm insisting also from our foreign donors, foreign community, that they have to engage with the Taliban. And especially our regional countries, neighbors, is very important to work with them closely. And so they can make they can come up with some kind of decision. Yeah. So they can work out for the future of Afghanistan all together, because neighboring countries is very important right now. Regional network is very important right now. Without the first important thing is regional support for them, and then our foreign friends. So these 2 points is very important.
Thank you so much. So just the last question that I wanted to ask was that judging by the situation right now and the Taliban government, and we've seen that they've been struggling a bit in the economy and just generally, the humanitarian crisis that is shaping up in Afghanistan. Do you feel that, especially with winter coming on and the funds being low, do you foresee a food crisis taking shape in Afghanistan? And do you feel that there is a solution for that, or whether they can, whether the government will be able to handle that effectively?
I think the government is not capable of handling that. That's why I keep emphasizing that. As you rightly mentioned, that the winter is coming. It's very, very critical time right now, especially for the residents of Afghan people. For example, the woman, the kids who is living in tent right now, and there is no jobs, no income. Economy went down to zero. So it's very important that they have to connect with each other. The neighboring countries, this is the time for neighboring countries to come up and hold their hands.
Okay, thank you so much. And just one last question that I wanted to ask both our Afghan panelists, that it has been stated, and it has been as people have said that the Taliban coming to power could not have happened without local support and without Afghan support. And it goes to show that how much do you think that that's actually true? How much of their coming into power has come from local and ground, grassroots support, and how much of it could be taken as them, inflicting? Because that's where the difference in the Western mindset and the local mindset, that's where that argument comes, that the West says that they have imposed themselves on Afghanistan, and they have gone there through by force or by just taking over the territory. But how much grassroots support do you think they have, that, and would this takeover have been this smooth and this fast if they didn't have that local support?
I think I like to answer this question, and then maybe Bukhtiar will add it on. The important thing is that they haven't came by the support of local suddenly. It came by the a collapse of regime, collapse of our military, and the military which has been supported for years from the United States and the NATO allies. And suddenly they remove all the supports. So that's why it happens because of the collapse of regime, one. And right now, how they can get this support, because Afghanistan was like an empty plate. Anybody can come and move, and it was that situation. So I call it like an empty plate. Anybody can put their hands in it. So right now they have to work with the community, with Afghans. This is the big opportunity for Taliban right now, that they have to, everything comes, and every help you do by economy. Once you have economy, everybody, because in Afghanistan or any countries would like their economy to grow, to develop, and in that way you can bring peace and stability in the region and also in Afghanistan. If you don't have the economy sorted out, you can't bring peace and stability in Afghanistan or any other country. So that's why they have to. That's why I keep emphasizing that they have to work with the international community. International community has to work with them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Syed. Ambassador Wazir, if you're still online, we would love to hear your opinion on this question as well.
Well, my apologies. I missed the question. If you don't mind, if you can repeat, I'll then obviously like to comment.
So I'll just give a summary of it. It was just about the grassroots support that the Taliban have and whether the takeover could have been this fast and this smooth if the local populations were not supporting them. And and just the Western mindset of how it's taken as more of them forcing and taking over by force rather than it being an actual a movement that came from the people.
Well, I think they have support. I say it at the cost of being contradicted, but I would accept it. Doesn't matter. They have support. They are from the rural area most, and the Afghan population, or Pakistani for that matter, the majority, they live in the rural area, not in the urban. So they have a strong support. Otherwise, they would not have been able to resist for 20 long years and then finally drive the incompetent government imposed against the wishes by the foreign power. This is what I said in my presentation, that anything which is imposed on Afghanistan has not worked. It has made the country more poor, more miserable, destroyed it more. This is what history tells us. This I am not saying. So they have the support, definitely. But now it is for them, I would say, in 40 years of war in Afghanistan, this is the first time that has come their way to unite the Afghan nation, to take steps to make their opponents their friends. Only then the Afghan nation will go together. Only then they will be able to succeed. Only then the outside world would react positively. And until then, the differences, somewhere it may come in open, somewhere it may be in their hearts, and that would keep on simmering, and then a day would come. Unfortunately, I'll be the last one to wish that for Afghanistan, that Afghanistan goes back to square one and the civil war starts again, because resentment certainly is there against the Taliban in the country. So they should take steps to address those concerns first at home. And when they have done it, the home support will be much stronger behind them, and the world body will have no option but to return with positive interaction with them, recognize them, and do business with them like any country does with another country. But until they have addressed the core issues which they had said before taking over Kabul, they have said that they'll give place to women in representation in administering the country and take other steps also. But let's see, I mean, they are entering, I think, in the third month, which is not that big a time if one really looks at the checkered history of Afghanistan. It's unfortunate, it's never been stable. So as at the cost of repeating myself, I say, this is the last opportunity of unity and peace returning to Afghanistan. If that is wasted, then I'm afraid it will not stay only in Afghanistan. It will have serious effects and impacts on the neighbors also.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Now I would request President Ayaz to give his share his remarks with us.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting conversation which the three panelists had. I mean, there is always a difference of opinion, but that is what is expected in such an interaction. Everybody has their own views. You know, the facts can always be different. Ambassador Ayaz Wazir, as a diplomat, was quoting all the facts which were presented to him by the leadership of Iran, by the leadership of Afghanistan. While on the other hand, Hassina and Bukhtiar, you had some information which was available to you, which is from the Afghan people. So, like, you know, they can always be a difference of opinion. But I am glad that, like, you know, we were able to talk about Afghanistan. We were able to put the various opinions which were there on the table. And I think the take home, if there is a take home from this webinar, it is what Ambassador Wazir said in the end, that 3 months is too short a time. You have to wait and see. And yes, I think it is imperative that peace completely should return to Afghanistan. There should be development, and that can only happen once there is a complete or a, or a great amount of understanding among the various people which are there in Afghanistan, that the country has to make progress, because conflict only breeds conflict. And like Ambassador Wazir said, that the thing is that situations or circumstances should not be created which could lead towards the failure of the Taliban to bring together the entire country, because that would again lead to a great amount of chaos and mayhem. The original topic of the seminar was the rich Afghan culture, and I would like to close with this thing, that Afghanistan is a country which has a rich culture, which has very strong traditions, and I think it is imperative that we should look at Afghanistan from the eyes of the Afghans and not from the eyes of other countries, whether they are in the region or whether they are in any other part of the world. Thank you very much. It was great listening to you. I feel myself much more educated than I was at the beginning of the seminar. And over to you, Zunaira. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to thank all our panelists for joining us today. Thank you so much for being so patient, and thank you for such an intense discussion. I apologize if anyone was offended during the course of the discussion, and I hope that we continue to share our views and opinions in the future as well. We would love to have our Afghan panelists back again for different webinars in the future. And thank you so much to everyone who participated today. And goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.